Hello, and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today, I'll be showing you how to cycle from Brixton in South London to Catford in South East London. This ride takes about half an hour, and you can do more or less the whole thing cycling on quieter streets. Were you to take public transport for this journey, you'd probably be looking at a journey time of about 50 to 55 minutes, and you might need to change trains or buses as well, so cycling it is a good way to do it. If you find this video useful, or you just enjoy watching it, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting on Coldharbour Lane in Brixton, and we're going to go straight onto Railton Road. Railton Road is part of a low traffic neighbourhood that was installed by Lambeth Council, and that's had the effect of really quietening down the street, and there's not very much traffic on here at all, and you can see there's a few people cycling as well, which is really quite nice. There is a bus route on here, so you'll occasionally pass a bus, but generally the traffic levels on here will be so low that anybody, whether they're a child or whatever, could just cycle down here and it'd be no problem. The way that the low traffic neighbourhood works is that the council has removed any through routes for motor traffic from the area, and they've done that by putting in no motor vehicle signs and planters which stop cars and motorbikes from driving through it, but they still allow people to cycle and walk around, and also they have exceptions for buses and blue badge holders, so people with registered disabilities. One thing people ask as well is what happens to emergency services, and they also have an exemption too. The LTM was originally installed as an emergency measure, as a trial during the COVID pandemic, during lockdown, but it has now been made permanent, it's been announced. So this and also another LTN around Oval and Stockwell has also been made permanent, so you can count on this being here when you come here, which is nice. I think it's really improved cycling conditions on the road, as it basically gives you a traffic-free route all the way from Brixton to Herne Hill and also out to Loughborough Junction if you go a little bit further east. And of course, the beauty of it, our final destination is Catford. We're not going to any of those places that I listed, but this is one step along the way for us to get there, so it really helps. Quite a bit of traffic outside Herne Hill station today, well, 2 or 3 people, making it difficult. The way you do this junction here is you cycle through this shared pedestrian area, and you wait at the traffic light here, and you see that green light, that light just went green. You wait for it and you cycle onto this bit, and we're going to go straight into Brockwell Park. Now, Brockwell Park is actually closed at night, so you'd have to go along Norwood Road to do it, but while the park is open, it's definitely nice to cycle in the park. You are allowed to cycle here. It's you might have noticed the shared pedestrians and cyclists sign at the beginning of the entrance, and the paths are quite wide, but they are shared with pedestrians, so make sure you don't go too fast, and be courteous to people on foot, as they are priority over bikes. We're only in here for a short period of time though, so you actually want to take the first left to turn off left, and then we go straight down here, and we're going to get to Norwood Road here. So this is where you would join up with the road here, and you go over this cycle zebra crossing. And although cars are supposed to stop for you there, they won't necessarily do that, so do be careful as you cross the road. That puts us on the Rosendale Road cycleway. It's quite good. It'll eventually be extended all the way to West Norwood Cemetery, but for now it only goes up to where we're going. I think it's also going to be rebuilt with more permanent materials. By the way, watch out on the left there for the AA driving instructor who's parked in the cycle lane on the double yellow lines. That is obviously not great. One thing I do like about this lane though is what they call floating parking. So you can see it on the right here, these 4 cars. They are parked next to the cycle lane. The cycle lane goes on the inside of them between the pavement and the parking. There's another couple more examples here, and as a result the lane is actually better protected by the parked cars. It adds an extra degree of separation between us and the moving motor traffic, and makes us really feel a little bit more secure, I think, which is quite nice. So we've reached the end of the Rosendale Road cycle lane now, and we've turned left into Turney Road. I don't like this bit of the route. It's a little bit too wide open, there's through traffic, it's not quite the quality that you would hope, so hopefully there'll be some way to improve this, either with an LTN or maybe with cycle lanes, because it is quite a wide road as well. Any regular viewers, by the way, might notice that this first stretch of the Brixton to Catford route is basically exactly the same as the Brixton to Dulwich video. But when we get to Dulwich itself, we're going to do something slightly different, and we're going to continue on to Catford. I was actually quite surprised at how easy it is to cycle on to Catford, to be honest, from Dulwich. It's pretty nice. There's a couple of minor exceptions, but generally it's a pretty good ride. So keep watching, and I will show you the best way to do it. By the way, we're currently in a low traffic neighbourhood put in by Southwark Council. You can see we're going through a bus gate here. That's a timed bus gate, so it's only operational at peak hours. The rest of the day and also on the weekends, it doesn't actually stop through traffic, which, to be honest, like you can tell, like it's not quite as nice a ride. But it's not bothering us too much today. This end of Turney Road is definitely a lot nicer than the other end of Turney Road, which needs a lot more work, I think. As you approach the lights at the end of this street, you'll see that there's a kind of a cycle lane, a filter lane on the left. So go down there and wait for the bicycle level signals. You can see we've got our own little lights there, and you head into Dulwich Square. And this is a genuinely really nice bit, nice LTN bit where they've closed off the square to traffic. And it used to be a busy road junction, but hopefully it could become a really nice public space in time if the council sort of makes this permanent, and instead of the sort of boxes there that are part of the trial and it still looks a bit like a road junction, you could have a nice paved square, some more cafe seating out there, and actually that would be a great public space. It's put us onto Court Lane here. One of the benefits of closing off that road junction and turning it into a square is Court Lane that we're on now is really quite quiet and really pleasant to cycle on. Unfortunately, and I know people always like me to remind them of this in videos, this is actually a bit of a hill. So yeah, we're going uphill, and that guy coming towards us is going downhill, so it's not all bad. And before I forget, I'd like to remind you that if you need a map of this route, you can find one on the video description. So that's the just underneath the video on YouTube in the text, and there'll be a link where you can download a GPX file, and that's the industry standard, and it'll work on probably whatever app or device you use. And of course, I'd also like to remind you that if you like the video, please don't forget to hit the like button on YouTube. It really helps other people find it. And also, if you enjoy the content generally, or you want to find more of it, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and that'll notify you when new videos are announced. And I try to post new ones on here pretty much every week, and I usually get around to it as well. So we're coming up to the Dulwich Library Junction, and this is a massive, big, wide open road junction. Not a massive fan of it, and this is probably the trickiest turn in the whole thing. We're going here and we want to turn right into that road. It's no entry except cycles, so you wait for a gap in the traffic and then turn in. Unfortunately, that on the left is not a cycle lane, it's a pavement extension outside the school. That's great, good to have pavement extensions outside schools. Unfortunately, we're a little bit squeezed there between that and the bus stand that was on our right, so when that van came through at the wrong time, it was actually a little bit unpleasant to be there. But it puts us onto Friern Road, and that's actually this road's actually pretty good. It has a filter at the end. It's not completely a low traffic neighbourhood. It's not that there's literally no through traffic on here, but generally the filter that we'll see at the end of the street keeps this pretty quiet. You'll see we're making quite good progress here. We're heading towards Peckham Rye actually, and this is allowing us to really get between Dulwich and Peckham without running into too much traffic. If you know the area well at all, we're actually running parallel to Barry Road, which also heads towards Peckham Rye. That's the main road that you would go on, but we're sort of taking this residential street that runs parallel to that, and because of the closure at the end of it, which you'll see in a minute, it's really quite quiet and quite good. So yeah, even if you're not doing this exact route, it's worth keeping in mind Friern Road as a sort of a decent cycle route to get between Dulwich and Peckham Rye. You can see coming up at the end of the street here, this is why it's so quiet. It's actually been closed off, and there's a nice cycle cut through, and it leads us back onto this street, which is still Friern Road. And when we get to the end of that, that's Peckham Rye Common ahead of us. You go up onto the little shared pavement here. You could see there was a little bit of a cycle lane, and there's what they call a toucan crossing here, so it's basically a pedestrian crossing, but it also has bike lights, so we can use it too. And we go on to Peckham Rye Common. The paths on Peckham Rye Common are actually laid out in quite a strange way. You'd think it'd be easy to get up to sort of Peckham Rye, the central bit of town from here, but actually the paved paths that you're allowed to cycle on, they don't really go that way. But we're not heading towards Peckham, we're actually going towards Catford today. So what we want to do is basically just cross the common. Be aware, of course, that these are shared paths. I mean, actually, I think this is technically a road, but it's a path. It's been used as a path, and there's a lot of pedestrians on it. So, or there often will be. So, watch out for them, and don't go too quickly, and give everybody a wide berth, and just be aware that pedestrians tend to have priority over cycles. People often, when I route routes through parks, people often ask about lighting, and you can see that there are indeed street lights here, so you shouldn't have too much of a problem with lighting. It's reasonably well lit, the route that I've chosen across the common, and also there isn't an opening time for the common. You can go across here pretty much whenever you want. It's a 24-hour thing, and I don't think it should really be an issue. If you were to go to the bit to the south in Peckham Rye Park, that does close, but these paths that we're using, these are actually 24 hours. So you get to the end of the path here, and what you want to do is you want to look both ways before you get on the road, and then head onto the road that's called Peckham Rye, and then very, very quickly we're going to turn left down this nice protected cycle bypass, which helps us cut the corner, and we go onto Stuart Road. Now, this video is a little bit deceptive because we're just going past a car here, but actually this is a really quiet road, and the reason I know it's a really quiet road is because you see that pub on the right, the Ivy House. I've sat outside the Ivy House for hours and barely saw any cars go past, so I can tell you I've verified that this is a very, very quiet street. Unfortunately, we're only on it briefly. We turn right onto Rye Road, not to be confused with Rye Lane or Peckham Rye or any of the other roads with Rye in their name around here. And this is actually a bit where I would say you probably want to download the map for, or you can just follow the little number 22 on the road. It does point to an old London cycle network route called 22, so we're following these arrows. That's a little cheat, by the way, so just follow the little number 22. Only for this section of the route, we're not for most of it. You come into to Merttins Road here, and actually this is probably the worst bit of the route. Apart from the Turney Road bit at the beginning near Dulwich, you can see there's absolutely loads of traffic here. This is a rat run. It badly needs a low traffic neighbourhood or cycle lanes or something like that just to make it a little bit more palatable. Unfortunately, there's loads of traffic, and it's all coming out of that road on the left there. But once you pass that road on the left, fortunately that was only a really short bit. Once you pass that, actually we're okay now. There's not really any traffic on this bit of it because it's not really a through route. You can see we're still following the number 22 here. That's an old London cycle network route dating from the 1990s or the 1980s. I'm not sure exactly for this particular one, but it's not a current route, and you wouldn't usually pay too much attention to those old London cycle network routes today. They're not really current, but occasionally they can be useful for weaving through particular streets. Now look at the floor here. This is a two-way cycle track for bikes going in both directions. Unfortunately, this guy thinks it's a one-way cycle track just for him, and if you look at the floor again, you can see why that is, because when you enter the bridge from this direction that he came in, it actually looks like there's a cycle symbol pointing in one direction, and it looks like it's a one-way cycle track. When you look at it from our direction, it's a two-way cycle track. That's actually quite dangerous, needs to be sorted out. But there's also a moral in the story, which is that don't be too assertive on the road when you're cycling. Don't threaten to ride into somebody, because you might be making a mistake and you might look like an absolute you might injure somebody. Now, the reason I'm on the pavement is because we're about to use this toucan crossing here, and we come onto the pavement on the other side of the road, and it connects us onto Sevenoaks Road here. And to be honest, that's not the best way to do a bike crossing. I don't really like toucan crossings. It's not great to mix bikes with pedestrians. Nobody really wants to ride on the pavement. Pedestrians don't really like it when bikes are on the pavement, so it's better to separate bikes and cycles, but that was put in a long time ago, back when this LCN route was done, and it does the job for us for today. And it takes us onto Sevenoaks Road, which is actually quite a nice ride, and you can see it doesn't go anywhere. It ends in a cul-de-sac, and there's a guy in it having a lot of fun with a pickaxe. Slow down and look both ways as you cross that road, because that is a through route that you cross, and you'll end up on Ewhurst Road. This street is okay to cycle on. It's not the best, but it'll do. It looks pretty good now, but I think at peak time it probably could get a little bit busier, so maybe this area could do with a low traffic neighbourhood or something like that in the long term or medium term. Now you get to the end of this street and you have to cross this road, which can get quite busy, so wait for a gap in the traffic and then push over. This bit is still called Ewhurst Road, and if you noticed, you probably saw at the beginning of the street there was a no through route sign on it, and the reason we're going down here is because, well, there's no through traffic on it, so it's nice and quiet for us, but also it ends in Ladywell Fields, which is a park which is going to take us directly into the heart of Catford, so you can see you're allowed to cycle on these paths here. One notable thing about the paths on Ladywell Fields is that they're quite steep. It is a bit of a hill, so in our direction it's a really easy cycle down, in the other direction it's a bit of a slog going up. And the main thing I would keep you aware of is that this is a shared path with pedestrians, so even in this direction, don't go too quickly down the hill, and give people a wide berth as you go, as it's probably not too pleasant being a pedestrian on the path if people are going really fast on bikes whooshing past you. At the end of the field, go over the bridge, over the river, and then under the railway bridge with the bollards, and you'll find yourself on this street. This street shouldn't have any through traffic on it. Well, it doesn't, so it shouldn't be too busy, but unfortunately that guy has stopped on the double yellow lines, which has created a little bit of a bottleneck and made it look a little bit more busy than it actually is for now. And however, we're basically there now. This is Catford Station and Catford Bridge Station coming up here on our left, and then also Catford Station coming up on our right. They are right next to each other, and as you can see, we've done it. We cycled all the way from Brixton to Catford, and I'd say that was a pretty nice ride mostly. I'd say the two weakest bits of it were definitely in Dulwich on Turney Road, at the beginning of Turney Road, where there was quite a bit of traffic, and also that very short just before we went on the railway bridge, where there was a little bit too much through traffic and rat running, where an LTN is definitely needed. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I post new ones like it every week, and also like the video on YouTube because it helps other people find it too. And I'd just like to say thanks very much for watching this, guys. I really appreciate it. Really enjoy this video. Hope you find it useful. Bye.